All right. Or did you? So you're gonna record it here, or do you want me to record it on my channel unlisted and then give you that, or?
Yeah, I can do that too.
Whichever works better for you.
Yeah, because I'm gonna because I usually have like this 5-minute countdown thing that's kind of cool though, because it's like a really because I actually learned how to use the OBS pretty well, and it's pretty interesting that a lot of the stuff that I'm using is pretty cool.
Oh, so you can actually record it like right through here through your computer.
Yeah, and I can I can record it through my computer and upload it. It's gonna be a small data line, but it'll probably be like an hour. It'll be like 1 gigabyte for that thing, which is not bad.
All right, cool. Sounds fun.
So what are you planning to do with this book that you're trying to give out to people? Is it going to be on Amazon or something?
Yeah, I'm going to self-publish probably in a month or so. This is just the rough draft I sent you.
Yeah, fair enough.
The final copy is going to be mostly the same, but I have to do some proofreading, rework certain sentences if it sounds better, phrasing in a certain way, spelling and grammar, things like that. I wasn't sure if you were just neutral on it and trying to understand both sides, or if you were just supporting it.
Yeah, I understand. I just think, but the only thing I have to deal with is the Anime Gate stuff. That's the other thing that I had to deal with for a while. So, explain to me, what do you wish to ask me about, or what I want to ask you about?
Well, did you have a chance to read it? At least part of it yet?
The fact that you made some interesting theories about the issue about the tribalism issue, did you bring that up in the book?
Yes, the last chapter is actually almost entirely about that.
Fair enough, because a lot of the stuff that's been going on is that I kind of had an issue with some of the things that you were talking about, especially it does bring some interesting theories about the cultural war and everything in the book that you brought up about this, about how GamerGate supporters were behaving in a way.
Okay. What in particular did you want to bring up about that?
The controversies behind it is that we get accused a lot for harassment. That's another thing that I like to bring up about the side of what the press did by insulting people, calling them names and everything, and it was hard to believe that we tried to debate them on this, but they didn't seem to want to debate the issue.
Right, for sure, and I actually go through and sort of debunk most of those talking points, at least. I wouldn't say debunk, but I try to address it in the book. In I think it's chapter 5. Let me pull it up real quick.
Okay.
There's an entire chapter dedicated to the blame game.
Yeah, and that's true. That's another thing that became a problem, was the blame game that I seen on this whole thing. Especially you brought up Professor Shreya Chess of the University of Georgia thing about the whole anti-GamerGate people viewed themselves as activists fighting on behalf of women and minorities who play video games, but women and minorities who disagree with the social justice politics, however, would find themselves either left out of the conversation entirely or even berated or being traitors.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the lines that I read.
Yeah, I ended up quoting her there, and it's what she says is how to say this in a neutral way. It seems like she's basically saying that these people have internalized misogyny and racism
in theory,
and
in her own theory. Yeah, okay,
yes,
fair enough.
In her theory, that she believes that these people have basically been sucked into the patriarchy's notions of what exactly it is that they should be, how they should operate, and that rather than fighting against their oppressors, that they are aligning themselves with their supposed oppressors.
That's fair enough. Yeah, because that kind of does explain a lot of the stuff that's been happening, and it seems that their issue was kind of oppressive. But it kind of falls back to us too, because we started to act very much oppressive in a way.
Well, we became tribalistic as well. I would say that we generally avoided some of the worst aspects of that, the doxing, the trying to get people fired. I would say we generally avoided the worst aspects.
I tried to avoid it too, and I kind of caused some of the stuff. But as I recall, what's her name? What was her name? The woman who worked for Nintendo.
Oh, Allison Rapp.
Allison Rapp. I did do a video about her many times, and because I understand Nintendo's image in a way that they don't want to, they're more family friendly sometimes, but now over the years, ever since what's his name died, they changed surprisingly.
Well, and they've got adult, a lot of adult games. They made a special deal with Capcom back in the day to make the Resident Evil games exclusive to their platform. That's why RE4 was, and they also made a couple of their own too. Bayonetta, I believe, was that them?
Yes, but originally it was in multiple consoles, and I remember the controversy behind that. I think it was Platinum Games. That's the one. What happened was they bought the rights to make Bayonetta 2 on the console, from what I understand, because considering that the developer had opened his mouth about the PlayStation 3, and that was bad for business for them because of the whole loading screen issue. Controversy, as I recall.
Oh, I missed out on that. What happened there?
Well, here was the thing. There was a comparison of the PlayStation 3, and apparently, from what I found out, I watched a video about it, but the guy took it off of YouTube. He showed the differences of loading screen times with PlayStation 3 versus the Xbox, and the Xbox 360 seems to load faster than the PlayStation 3. And a lot of people complained about this to Sega and Platinum Games about this issue because of the fact that the loading screen times were taking longer on the PlayStation 3. And that caused a lot of controversy, and Platinum Games developer, who we all know and love, who likes to open his mouth, kind of pissed off a lot of people in PlayStation side of things, and he couldn't get his, considering that the game didn't sell very well, he decided to make another sequel. And of course, PlayStation said, nope, we're not going to let you publish anymore because you talked bad about us. And this, of course, led to him going to Nintendo, and Nintendo accepted, and they put in the money for it. Considering that Sega originally was the publisher for this game, they decided not to get into the whole gyps of things about what happened. Because they still do support Platinum Games, but the problem is, they decided to go with Nintendo on this. They let with their blessings let Platinum Games go with Nintendo. It's sort of a complicated story right there.
Okay, I didn't know the history of that at all.
Yeah,
I guess that's why I know there was some controversy. I guess that's why people were pissed off.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people were pissed off, because the original Bayonetta had loading screen time issues, and that was the problem with that system. Was that because originally the processor for itself was it was a new generation processor that they created on the PlayStation 3. And what happened was, it was one of the state-of-the-art ones, but the problem was a lot of developers couldn't program on that thing. It wasn't easy to program. And then, of course, from what I remember, Xbox, Microsoft itself paid developers to get exclusives from the Japanese developers, from what I recall, and they paid them money to develop games on the system, and then they helped them program pretty well and figured out how to program games, and then they finally figured out a way to port the games to the PlayStation 3, because there was a lot of problems with the original with what they did with the PlayStation 3, because they couldn't figure out how to program, and they figured out how to way to port the games to the PlayStation 3. And thus, considering that they made a deal with, because I know a lot of Japanese, there was an interview with one of the Japanese developers, from what I recall, and they told the story about the fact that they decided to go with Sony because they if we didn't do it, we wouldn't get a check. That's what they said, because they basically ported the games from programming through the Xbox 360 to the PlayStation 3. You may get what I'm saying about this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, considering the difficulty of programming on the PS3, because the game kits that they sent out were never perfect, and they had to reassure every developer that they would try to fix the issue. And the problem was they couldn't fix the issue very much at Sony's side of the end. But thanks to Microsoft they helped programmers do better with it and then port the games to the PS3. That's what happened. That's according to what Japanese developers said, because it was cheaper to make on the Xbox, on the Xbox 360, and then port it to the PS3. That's what they did. They basically ported the games into the PS3, and that was that. It's hard for me to explain the whole thing because it's like a lot of storytelling right there that I couldn't, as I recall.
Gotcha. I had no idea about that, so thanks for letting me know, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's. I'm sorry if I couldn't really, tell a good story. That's pretty much what I remembered from it. So the whole thing about this book, we're off topic here.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's your show, man. However you want to do it.
Yeah, considering that you talked about the controversies by memory, let's see here. Let me see if I could find it here that I recalled that you brought up the extreme controversies. As I remembered in GamerGate, there was a part where the Kotaku narrative of what they were doing, accusing people of being white nationalists and white supremacists, as I recall.
Oh, that was much later, I believe.
Yeah, because Kotaku actually brought this up and accused GamerGate of being white nationalists and also KKK supporters and all that other stuff, as I recall. Now
was it? I don't remember the article by heart. I know there's a few different articles that were published like that. Was it the what about NPR?
I think so, yes. They kind of... But I do know that Kotaku did it, and that was like one of their writers that did that. That was like the I think he was like the main editor for... one of the main editors for Kotaku. And he also started up the Coca-Cola controversy, accusing them of white nationalism back then.
I don't remember that at all.
It was the one where Pepsi had a AI... basically they were like using this little, I forgot what it's called. Let me see if I can look it up, because I remembered let me see if I can look it up, because this was like a long time ago. Coca-Cola. Yeah, considering that they brought up the history of Coca-Cola was involved with the Nazis in World War II. There was yeah, this is true history though. This is true history. But what happened was there was an advertisement that they did on social media, and what happened was Coca-Cola had been forced to pull the advert Fanta claims over suggestions of Nazi Germany. That was like the backlash back around the 2000 let me see if I can remember, because I remember they were on social media when this happened, and then of course I thought it was a really nice gesture that Coca-Cola was trying to do, and then they got accused of racism again. Let's see. See if I could find it. If I can find the because I remember just looking at it. It was like a long time ago. Coca-Cola pulls Twitter campaign after it was tricked into quoting Mein Kampf. That was the controversy.
Okay. Yeah. I don't follow it too closely anymore.
Yeah, what happened was the hashtag Make It Happy campaign, which used to automatic algorithms to turn negative tweets into pictures of happy things, was hijacked by Gawker. That's what happened. Coca-Cola has been forced to withdraw Twitter advertising campaign after the counter campaign by Gawker tricked it into tweeting large chunks of the introduction of Hitler's Mein Kampf.
Yeah, I see this now, yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing about this, and I remembered this controversy, And the fact that the media company editors labs director Adam Pash created a Twitter bot called Mind Coke, and it set up a tweet lines from Mind Comp and then linked them to Make It Happy tag, triggered Coca-Cola's own Twitter bot to turn them into cutesy pictures. And the result of the cup, and this was a long time ago, and I remember this. This was when GamerGate was still a thing at the time. And of course, Gawker tried to mock this.
Yeah, this was February of 2015.
Yeah,
that feels like so damn long ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, and most people think that GamerGate started in 2011, but actually it started out in 2013.
You mean 2014?
Yeah, 2013. That's when the drama hit.
You mean 2014?
Yeah.
Oh, you said 2013. That's why I was confused for a second.
2013. 2013 is when it happened.
No, I think.
And then it hit. Then it
we've
flit
been using the time machine again here, JT.
I know we're using that time machine right now. I'm like off on this one.
It was August 27th or 28th is when the hashtag was first used, and then there was some drama a few weeks before that.
Yeah.
Of 2014.
Yeah, that's what it. Then it started off because originally it was known because you said it yourself. Because from what I remember, it was originally called burgers and fries, as I believe it was called.
Yeah, there was that hashtag. There was conspiracy hashtag. There was a bunch of different ones that people were using back then.
Yeah, that's what they called it. And then GamerGate hit, and then that's what happened.
Yeah. It all feels like so long ago that it's easy to get the years mixed up.
Yeah, it is true. That is true. And it's like there was so many crazy stuff going on, and it's like it literally became drama. And then you find out the doxing happens with the game journalist, and we found out who it was though. It was Wild Goose, from what I heard. And he admitted to doing it.
Yeah, he said he did a lot of it. I'm sure there were probably other people too. There were so many different groups involved with the GNAA and the Baphomet and Kiwi Farms. Because they wanted this to stop. They wanted this to stop because it got really retarded. And the fact that I think I know why they did that. It's because they were afraid that if it gets too out of control to the point of it, the FBI might get involved. Because there's a lot of people that were advocating for a lot of this stuff. We're advocating that we should get the FBI and law enforcement involved and take down these so-called doxers and criminals that are trying to harass people. That was the issue. Yeah, but didn't they actually make it more likely that the government was going to get involved or the FBI was going to get involved?
Oh yeah, they did.
I mean, they're the ones causing most of the disruption.
I remembered what's his name? One of the anonymous hackers, as he calls himself. He threatened GamerGate, and I know Anonymous also tried to threaten GamerGate. Because they were basically attacking people left and right, and then it got to the point because they were believing in because some of them probably were not aware of the narrative that the people that were involved in it, even in Not Your Shield, were. And then I even remember making a video about it, showing the identities of the people that were involved in the GamerGate controversy. Talking about the ethical issues they were concerned about, they basically accused everyone that they were all white.
Oh, yes. A lot of them did that.
Yeah, as I recall.
And then Not Your Shield came along and...
Yeah, and they pointed that out, that they didn't like it. Heck, I didn't like it. And they were basically accusing everyone of being white nationalists, being involved in this, because 4chan dug into this, And it was like, okay, so why is 4chan involved in this? And of course, you know, you had people, and I realized that there were a lot of journalists that got involved in GamerGate, and some of them probably got attacked, and some of them were doxxed, as I recalled.
And it is pretty undeniable that even Sargon's investigation of this. I don't know if you remember, but Nita Sarkeesian published the list of the harassing messages she received.
Yeah.
And Sargon went through it, and most of these people, they weren't trolls or bots even.
Yeah.
Most of them were just like these die-hard gamers who weren't even involved with GamerGate. Most of them had never even tweeted the GamerGate hashtag.
Yeah.
And they were just saying "shut the fuck up, bitch" and things like this because I guess they were angry with her videos or
because
something along those lines.
A lot of her videos weren't really very educational in a sense. They were just basically bias. That was it. And of course, you know, there was one YouTuber that Gaming Goose, which I watched. He actually pointed out that there were several games that involved women, and they were all in the 8-bit era. And then he showed the 16-bit era. Then people pointed out in the list of games that there were heroines in video games long before you even talked about this issue. The problem was a lot of the stuff that I saw in the situation. It kind of surprised me a lot because you find out there's a lot of interesting games, especially that includes diverse characters in video games that exist long before she even brought this issue up, do exist. But the problem is, not every feminist will talk about this. And I realized a lot of game historians don't talk about it either. And that's the funny thing. And a lot of the people who brought these issues up, like there's a game that I used to remember had featured diverse characters, and it was in a old 16-bit Sega game called Streets of Rage, and including the sequels featured diverse characters. And surprisingly, they didn't bother to discuss that issue.
So why do you think it is that they overlooked all this?
I think it's because some of them possibly never experienced it, or they never, because it's not really an experience to them. It's basically, they never bothered to look into it because they basically think that because you live in, what state do you live in?
Missouri.
Missouri. Now, tell me about the history, a little bit of the history of Missouri in your state.
Oh, wow. I'm not an expert on this topic whatsoever, but basically, Missouri was a territory. I believe it was, at least part of the state was purchased with Louisiana Purchase.
Yes.
Lewis and Clark came came across the Mississippi River, and made it to the West Coast.
Yeah, and what's the interesting history about Missouri? That the dark side of the history of Missouri. What do you know about that?
Well, I guess it's the Bleeding Kansas situation, right?
Yeah.
Right before the Civil War, there were people killing each other over the issue of slavery on the border between Missouri and Kansas. So both states were really involved, and there was just a lot of violence and a lot of bloodshed.
Yeah, because there's a lot of history going on with, especially the dark side of history of states, and also the fact there's a lot of history of racism and a lot of stuff that goes differently. I heard a lot of stuff from my teacher explaining to me about Mississippi. And Mississippi, they have different behaviors and customs and such like that in the states. Like in Texas, it's similar to that too. They have different customs and different traditions and different ideas, different views, points in different states. And I remembered even the gun laws. Heck, I even went to Utah and I was surprised by Utah. They seem like nice people, but business-wise, they're limited on certain amounts of what they can do over there.
Well, as they should be with gun laws.
Yeah, well,
In my opinion.
gun laws are different there too. It's like even healthcare too. That you'd be surprised what healthcare is in other states are.
Well, in regards to Mississippi, it's not very good, is it?
I don't know. From what I understand, when I went to Mississippi one time, it was interesting to see the state. Like when you travel from Georgia to back to Texas, or Texas to back to Georgia. It was interesting looking at Mississippi and also Louisiana. Like the job markets in Louisiana were limited back in the early, I think, 2000s, 2005. I think it was around that time when I went down there and looking at the area. And I can see that Shreveport, Louisiana was like the biggest money, like people go there just to gamble, and jobs down there are pretty big down there too. But when you look at the rest of the state of Louisiana and everything, it just looks like a really bad crap hole.
Right, and we're probably going to see seeing more of this with automation and AI, and also probably with these developments in technology. You're going to see a lot of people. Trucking, for instance, is the
logistics.
Is the number one job in 28 states. Yet we are seeing massive strides towards self-driving cars and things of this nature. So within 15, 20 years, more and more people are going to be unemployed. There's going to be more and more areas like this throughout the country.
And the fact that it would lead to socialism, and that's the thing that people are worried about too, is that they would lose their purpose in life and doing something that they really, are into.
Well, I think we're almost already there in regards to losing our purpose. Obviously, it's not as bad as it could be, but I think a lot of people today, they are losing the sense of purpose. They are losing their connections with their local communities in many cases too, and they are turning to family, and they're turning to other things. They're turning to political extremism and their identity. Right? They're turning to the identity politics of the far left and the far right. They are turning to drugs and alcohol abuse.
That is true.
Suicide rates are up for the first time in, decades?
And also mental health as well.
Yeah, mental health is also... So we have a huge crisis here. And I think a lot of it is... There's a bunch of different factors, right? There's the situation with opioids where they're overprescribed and they're highly addictive.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on there.
There's also the lawsuits that are going around too about opioids, because I remember there was a commercial I watched about it too.
Oh yeah, advertising too.
Lawyers are getting involved in this too. It's like...
And there's a lot of controversy about whether or not, like, if you have a highly addictive drug, should you be able to advertise that? Now, some people think that might be playing a factor because people are seeing this and they claim, oh, it's gonna make your pain go away, you're gonna feel good, and then you get hooked on these pills, and once the prescription runs out, you're going to end up basically having to go to the black market to get it.
That's true.
So there's a lot of issues with that too, but I think also part of it is people are turning to drugs and suicide and extremism because they feel like they have nothing else going on. And I personally was with GamerGate, right?
Yeah.
I was a young kid, kind of an idiot, not going to lie.
Yeah.
And I wanted a cause, I wanted a purpose, I wanted something to do with my life.
That's true.
And what did I do? What did I find? I found an online community of people with GamerGate. I found a cause that was something I was passionate about, right? Video games.
Yeah.
And I took that on, and I took up that mantle, and I fought for it insofar as you can fight using Twitter, right, and YouTube. Yeah. But I found something that provided me with a sense of purpose and meaning and community. And I think a lot of other people on the other side, too, are doing the same thing. Like a lot of these people in this anti-GamerGate camp,
I
they're
do
not
agree.
bad people.
I know
Yeah,
they're not. They're not bad people because
they're just trying to go through life, and they're lonely and they don't know what's going on. And
especially some of them bring up their identities as well. And I can
well,
I can
yeah,
relate. I can relate because I've been called names all my life too, but I had to move on and forgive and learn to forgive people. That's
yeah, definitely.
yeah, because I had to learn to forgive people because the thing is, if you can't really forgive, how are you going to live your life? Because I had to deal with a lot of the stuff that happened to me when I was young. I dealt with it when I find out there was an incident where I used to go to a school, and I attended that school since around 1996, and I found out that they accidentally killed a child. And I remembered going to a class called behavior management, and to find out the way they punish kids if they talk back or do something wrong that the teachers don't like. They basically, they fold your arms around your chest. They cross your arms around your chest, and then they pull it into your chest, and they put you on the ground, unable to breathe. Because the fact that I can understand that there are kids with behavioral problems and they have mental issues too, and the fact that they do this to punish the kids. What happened was the child in question had a history to where his parents withheld food from him. And one of the punishments that I recalled the school does is that the teachers used to do to us was they withheld the food from us if we don't do our work, if we didn't finish doing our work. And what happened was the kid basically, got so upset because he was hungry, and that was understandable because he had a mental issue where his parents used to withhold food from him, and he was abused, and they had to take him away from the parents through Child Protective Services. And from hearing the story, it brought a lot of bad memories to me, because hearing that story, hearing about the kid saying he couldn't breathe, and then I find out the kid died from a seizure. And then they said he died from a seizure, and I said, no, that was bullshit. He never died from a seizure. He died from being crushed by the weight, because they used to do this to us. And the fact that I remembered this tormented me when I was a kid. And remembering it in my head brought back a lot of memories, because I was that kid. And I'm lucky that I'm still alive, because that kid should have never deserved to die like that.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, and this was in the Texas school system, because they had this program called behavior management, and they did this, and they did this for a long time. And I knew that they did this since I was in that program. I was there in 1996. And luckily they stopped doing it, but I have a feeling they're still continuing it. That's the thing that scares me about the Texas school system and the behavior management program.
You'd think that with lawsuits, they'd stop this pretty quick.
They can't, because the kid was an orphan.
Oh.
That was because the kid was adopted, and they couldn't do anything about it. And they let go. But the teachers were only doing their job, and that was understandable. And the judge had to dismiss it.
But yeah, these people, they grow up, right? And we all grow up, and we have bad experiences. You're gonna get into fights with people. You're gonna have people calling you names, and look, it probably is worse if you are a minority, right? If you're growing up in the deep South and you're black, you're probably going to get called the N-word a few times by people.
Yeah, I get called. Shoot, I had to let these people, call me the N-word all the time. It's like, you know what? I don't care. I know.
But even more than that, though, it's not just that, right? That's one part of it. But I think even a bigger part of it is, right, human beings are tribal. If you look at our
Yeah.
history, we've always tried to form tribes with other human beings. It's how you
Yes.
survive. We're a social organism.
Yeah.
And throughout history, you would be in a tribe with mostly people who would look like you,
Yeah.
mostly people who had the same skin color, same facial features, like so on and so forth
Yeah.
as you. And you knew these were the safe people because you didn't know if you ran into another tribe that those people, they might try to kill you, they might try to steal your resources, so on and so forth. It could be a very dangerous situation, right? You're a hunter gatherer and you encounter another tribe. That could go south very quickly, especially since you didn't have the same language, you didn't have any of that stuff. You couldn't communicate, you couldn't, try to figure out some way to come to a reasonable understanding. That could be a very dangerous and very deadly situation.
Yeah.
So we evolved to be more, I wouldn't say distrustful of others, because the studies don't really back that up, but to show a lot more in-group trust.
That is true.
So it doesn't mean that you hate other people, but it means that you feel safer among people who are of your own kind.
Yeah, because I know
children.
And this is true because a lot of people don't feel safe around me, but I understand that they wish to stick with who they feel comfortable with, and that's true. If people don't feel safe around me, that's fine. I'm not gonna try to force them or anything like that. I just let them do whatever they want to do.
Right, as long as they're not treating you unfairly.
Yeah.
Right?
As long as they're not treating me unfairly, that's fine. Because as long as they let me do what I need to do, I'm not going to, stop them from doing what they have to do. Because I understand that a lot of them feel like they don't belong here, or they don't feel like they are well-liked or anything like that. It's understandable. Because that's how human beings act and behave, and that's how they are.
Right, and so when you already feel alone, when you're already feeling alone and vulnerable, and you don't have a very strong sense of community, right? The breakdown in the social fabric, I think, is a huge component here, because these people we don't have the same outlets that our parents used to.
Yeah.
To interact with each other. People would actually go out and they'd go to church together. They'd have community events together.
Yeah.
They'd volunteer for charities together. They'd go out to use the Putnam example, Ronald Putnam's example. They'd go to bowling leagues together, right? They did all these things, and some people still do. But young people today aren't growing up with this structure. They are spending time playing video games, which is fine. But you have to have a balance. You have to have a balance between experiencing real life social interactions and finding forms of entertainment.
Yeah,
and we failed in that regard.
I know we failed in that regard, especially in this especially when people are trying to create new markets and new ideas. When there's racing cars, for example, people still do that. People still enjoy doing that. There's wrestling, no joke. There's the independent circuit of wrestling, and I'm talking about WWE type of stuff. There's also martial arts. There's still that outlet. There's also
well, almost all the sports, really. It's very much a social thing. I mean, other than maybe golf, but
yeah. There's also tennis as well, and basketball.
Yeah, tennis is alone.
Yeah,
I mean, you do have someone who's watched, your caddy in golf and so on and so forth.
Oh yeah, if you have the money for it. Yeah, because I know golf is an expensive habit that most people would love to do, but at the same time, it's not an easy outlet to get into.
Well, the clubs themselves go for hundreds of dollars.
That is true, because it costs a lot of money. There's a lot of stuff that you'd be surprised about, especially rock climbing is another one. I remembered there's this girl at work that I really like, and the sad part was she quit because of her injuries. She went with her son to go rock climbing. And surprisingly, she told me the honest truth about it. I was like, I got injured because I was rock climbing for just to be out with my son. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's interesting that rock climbing is a big deal now. A lot of people are getting into it. Like there's even special places where you can go to learn how to rock climb, and there's also an artificial rock climbing gym that you can go to. That's another hobby to get into.
And that's good. We need more positive developments like this. We need more people to have hobbies, but we need people, I think, to gain a sense of community. Which part of that you're going to get through hobby. But part of it you also need probably with your neighbors and with the people who live around you, even if they aren't engaged in the same activities you are. So
that's true.
If you're rock climbing or you're playing basketball or you're doing whatever, and your neighbor is doing something else, you're still not going to be interacting on the same level. So we have to find some way to have sort of community events.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I would like to bring up something about the LGBTQ situation, and there's a lot of people talking about these issues and concerns, especially what's going on with what we see in the LGBTQ. I'm starting to believe in this conspiracy that a lot of the LGBTQ they're not evil per se, they're not doing anything wrong, and I'm not saying they are, but some of them I'm starting to believe that they're starting up sex cults. And that's a conspiracy there. And it's kind of I'm not saying that they're bad people, it's just, I noticed that a lot of them around GamerGate got upset with a lot of the stuff that people say and a lot of the stuff that they take seriously, like people calling each other the F word and all that other stuff. It got to the point that a lot of the LGBTQ were criticizing the issue a little bit too far. Do you think so? Hello? And it looks like we have technical problems here. Oh boy. Hello? Mic issues? Okay. He had a little bit of a technical issue. I'm sorry. I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't that at all. But I'd be careful with your framing of that per se. Because
the sex cult thing that I said?
More the LGBT people, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure a lot of them probably are a bit kinky, especially more than the average person, because they are already dealing with something that is very not mainstream, right?
Yeah,
and so they're probably more involved.
I understand that's an outlet for them too.
Right. And obviously, if it's involving children, no matter what they are, gay, straight, I don't care, they should be going to jail.
Yeah, and that's a bigger concern too. It's like looking at the whole situation about this. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I understand that they want to have the same rights as everyone else, and they're feeling like they're being oppressed, and that's understandable too. But but when you go into crazy accusations like we're plotting to kill you,
but you said like the LGBT people, right? Like that's not exactly a community. That's millions of people who come from different backgrounds and have different ideas.
That's true.
So it's like the Jews controlling the world, right?
Yeah.
Almost. Not that you're making that comparison by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm not making that.
But obviously the Jews are a very diverse group of people.
Yeah, they are.
Just like the gay people and white people and black people and so on and so forth.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of things that people don't realize. There's a dark side to everything. And it's like,
oh, for sure.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like we found out from you heard about the mid-boss controversy, especially the owners of it were abusing their own employees, even sexually trying to get them to sleep with them. It was sort of a disturbing situation right there with Mid Boss, who accused at GamerGate of being the worst people ever. You recalled, because they were also the owners of the convention gamer. What was it?
Calgary Expo?
No, it was not the Calgary Expo. It was the Gamer. Was the Gay?
Oh, Gamer X.
Gamer X Expo. Yeah, the owners of that turned out they were trying to abuse their power over others.
Yeah, I remember MomBot, I think, tweeted about that.
Yeah, it turns out that two of their owners was like Rico, I think it was, I forgot her name, and it was surprisingly that these two were abusing their employees, paying them low wages, and also trying to force them so far to accuse people of transphobia. If you don't sleep with me, you're transphobic type of situation. That's kind of called the abuse of power type of situation. Like, people like to abuse their own.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, like I realized that was the issue that I had with the situation, that people are abusing their own powers, that be thinking that they can get away with it when sometimes you can't always get away with a lot of things, but there were a lot of people getting away with a lot of stuff.
Well, that's sort of the... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And it's like, especially, we find out that Matt tried to abuse his power, like Monday Matt, for example.
What'd he do?
You find out that he tried to falsely claim videos criticizing him.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, there were, like, he tried to false claim the videos, and that kind of caused a controversy, and he kind of abused it because he wants YouTube clout. That's the only reason why he did it. And he was saying, he was making all these excuses that he was in a bad place and all that other stuff. I'm like, no, Matt, you basically did this because you wanted to get people out of the way so you can have YouTube clout overall. Like, you wanted to become the next Keemstar. That was the issue that people had with him, is that he obviously tried to abuse his power.
Well, he lied about it too, right?
Yeah, and he lied about it.
If he would have just came forward and said, look, I did this, I'm sorry, it was a different time, that was 2 years ago or whatever, right? If he would have said something like that, people would have been more understanding, I think.
Yeah, and some people found out that he either tried to false flag his own video about Zoe Quinn and suspected that he tried to fake the whole controversy about Zoe Quinn.
Well, that would be a pretty big story if that were true.
Yeah, if it were true, but
his entire reputation was built on GamerGate.
Yeah.
So if he did that, I mean, he's done.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, he tried to frame GamerGate, because I noticed some of his videos he tried to speak out against GamerGate.
Really? Recently, or?
That was a long while back. Like, some of his videos he tried to blame GamerGate for certain things, and he made a mistake of doing that too. He actually jumped the gun on one of the videos that he did.
Was that the Allison Rap video, or?
I think so, yeah. That was the Allison Rap video.
Just a heads up, I do probably have to get out in about 45 minutes or so, because I start getting ready for a major event at my workplace. We're doing a meeting and stuff.
I love my major events when I work at the job that I'm working at, which is Goodwill.
I'm not saying my employer. That might be a bad idea.
I know they
edit that out.
That's fine. I'm not gonna try to, because there's a thing that I'm not gonna try to put down anybody or anything. I work at a job, and sure, they can call my job and tell them that I'm the worst supervillain ever. But I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't think any one of you guys out there are bad people. It's just the fact that sometimes I could disagree with you. Because sometimes you can say something crazy, and I'll be like, yeah, you're crazy. I'm going to go. And that's
you're putting yourself in danger, though, man. Someone's going to someone's going to hear this. They're going to call your boss, and they're going to try and get you fired.
Yeah,
like some crazy SJW or someone who is just trolling could do that.
I would really love to see them try to get me fired. But then again, that's fine. They can get me fired all they want. But there's something called, you might as well just fire me because of the fact that I said something. Go ahead and say it. I don't care. Because I can go back to what I need to do.
Well, that's a good attitude to have. You're not really afraid of it. You're not afraid of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you have backups too, right?
Yeah, I got backups. I got a backup plan. And those backup plans are secret plans that I will try to dominate the world.
The same thing we do every day, JT.
Yes.
Plan to take over the world. Well, that's one thing I found very helpful too in business, right? So, like in the business world, this is way off topic.
Mm-hmm.
To make backup plans.
Yeah.
To always have, like I have a list, a backup list.
Yeah.
So if I ever got laid off, or God forbid I got fired, which I don't think is going to happen, but who knows when this book comes out? It's something like that where it had to happen. I've got a list of places where I could make good money.
Yeah.
That are related to my industry. That I want to work at, and I've been slowly building connections with people over the course of the past few years. Right? I know people from when I was in college in my industry. I know people who I've worked with in the past and who switched to a different company, and I also I try to I send Christmas cards and stuff to the managers of these companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to like their HR department. Like Christmas, Easter, Halloween, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That way, if I ever am in a tough spot, I need to apply for a job there. I'd be like, oh, hey, we talked, we met in college, or oh, hey, I've always been an admirer of your company. I sent you a Christmas card last year, right? And you're building these personal relationships with people, and you're having a backup plan, and you're always trying to cultivate, a good resume and good connections and all that to help you succeed. And that is so useful. So few people do that these days.
That's fair. Yeah, because there's a lot of things that I would rather do with my life, and there's a lot of things I would rather not do in my life sometimes. But as far as I know, I realize a lot of people are trying to try to move on and try to get away from it all. And I realize, there's some people you just can't deal with, and there's some people you can't always, get along with at times in your life, but you have to really, try to figure out a way to live your life as best as possible. Because I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm not claiming to be the best example of humanity ever has, but, I try. That's the only thing, because not everyone's the perfect human being. Not everyone you would believe is going to either possibly hurt you in some way. But sometimes, there's some people that do it because they either care or they don't.
Well, that's one of the big things, right? Like, I think most people are like that. Most people are like what you just said. They're just trying to live a good life and just trying to get by. And they aren't out to hurt other people. They aren't out to cause trouble. They aren't out to do anything bad. But right now, we think of ourselves in this country, right, as in this tribal way. And, the other side wants to destroy America. The other side are fascists. The other side are communists. We must destroy them.
I do agree.
Right? That's what we think. But, like, these people are the people you went to school with.
Yeah.
Like, these people you're yelling at on Twitter, on Reddit, whatever it happens to be. Right? Yeah. That person could be your coworker. That could be your uncle. Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know who that person is.
And I'm not advocating for these people to lose their jobs over this shit. And I understand a lot of them, are like either big Trump supporters or big Bernie supporters or big Hillary supporters. I understand how you feel about it, because looking at it right now and the situation politically, there's got to be someone that has to do something, or else it's just going to keep going. Because life goes on, and people have to live off what they have to live off of.
Well, yeah, and I get it. And having these ideas and these principles, right? That's not inherently bad.
Yeah.
To have guiding principles. I mean, that's how societies are formed.
Yeah.
Right? If we didn't have the principles of classical liberalism and the Enlightenment, this country would not exist, or it would be a monarchy like Europe.
Yeah. And the thing
so
is,
you have. Oh God.
And right now, you know, there's a lot of situations that are involving in other countries, but what can we as human beings do about it? What can we do? Some of us can't always be there for those other countries, because not every country is going to respect us or possibly do whatever they can to like us.
Well, and they're very much ingrained in their own ways of thinking, right? Like the Iraq example, you have people who were never really united as a country, right? It's an artificial creation by the British of Iraq. Iraq was never a country before.
Yeah.
And now you have these people, the Sunni and the Shia, two very religious groups that hate each other.
And there's also the fact that there's also
Kurds
16 there's also 16 ethnic groups that live in Iraq.
Right, there's so many. There's the Kurds, the Arab Marsh people, so on and so forth. There's all these different groups, and they don't like each other by and large.
Yeah, they don't. They're kind of like considered.
They have no history. They have no history of being a democracy. This is their first attempt at a democracy.
Yeah,
and it didn't really work out that well.
I know, it's kind of crazy though. And oh boy, this is going to be interesting.
This was the smartest people. This was the smartest people in our country coming up with this plan, and they completely didn't take this into account. They just thought, so what's the George W. Bush line, right? The George W. Bush line was that every human being desires freedom in their hearts.
That is true.
Maybe there's some truth in it, in the sense that everyone values some degree of autonomy, sure, but I don't think everybody desires freedom in the same way we do.
Yeah, that's true.
The people, these people who grow up in these very tribal communities and also very authoritarian communities who've never really viewed women as being equal to men, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to suddenly become, classical liberals who love granting women's rights and respecting people regardless of their religious or ethnic differences overnight. This is going to take a process. It's going to take decades, and not everyone is there yet. Not everyone is possibly ever going to be there.
Yeah, because I know in Korea they have like this, from what I heard from a friend of mine, they have this borderline of areas where you can go to and where you can't go to. And they also run curfews as well in Korea, and they basically try to because there's like a gray area of people who, like, you have like the Japanese and the Koreans living there. You have a certain area where foreigners, there's like the English, the British, and from what I heard from a friend of mine, they have like these bars and businesses and everything, and they have like curfews, and they run it differently than others. And it's kind of interesting hearing about it too, about what's in Korea and what's in other countries.
Well, they're a very, very martial society too. Like they, not just in the sense that they have the conscription for the military, which makes sense given that they're in a perpetual state of war, North Korea, but just look at like their internet laws too. Yeah, like they actually have laws that prevent like people under 18 from playing video games after like 11 o'clock at night and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a curfew thing, especially in China. They have like certain laws as well over there too. Like from what I heard from people, they have no let me see, what is it called, the Good Samaritan law. They didn't have one over and they're starting to try to realize, we probably need to implement that law.
Oh, especially with all the fraud, probably. Like Russia has a lot of fraud, from what I hear.
Yeah, there's also because the guy was trying to help somebody, but unfortunately he's not allowed to, because if he does, he would have to pay the hospital bills, and that was the issue. That's why the Good Samaritan law is not implemented in China. Because there was a story about a guy who was injured at a train station in China, and what happened was he couldn't get help. No one could help him. All they could do was watch him. And he said, "I need help. I need help." And they couldn't help him because they're afraid that if they help him and send him to the hospital, they would have to be responsible for the bills. And that's the issue that a lot of people don't realize. That's what's going on in China. They're trying to change that law because of the fact that if the kid gets hurt, if someone gets hurt, they would have to pay for the injuries. That was the problem.
Right, and we used to have a similar system here before we had those laws.
Yeah,
where you try to give someone CPR and you accidentally crack a rib.
Yeah.
And now they're suing you, or now you're responsible for the bill. And
yeah, and that's something that's more of a fear of it. Like you're trying to save a person's life, and that person, and of course they have to. Right now, it's like now you have to give consent to try to help them.
But like getting to like Korea though, for instance, right?
Yeah.
In Korea, I'd say the democracy project largely worked, right? They're one of the most successful countries in Asia, and one of the most successful countries in the world. And they are a very strict society in a lot of respects, and they have laws that we probably wouldn't want in the United States.
Yeah.
But those laws are not incompatible with our values or incompatible with Western democracy, right? Yeah. We have laws that they probably wouldn't like either. They probably would not like our gun laws. We probably would not like their curfew laws, and so on and so forth. But that's not. I don't think that's the same as for instance, groups using their ethnic groups discriminating against other ethnic groups, right? Like you see in Iraq.
Yeah.
Or, God forbid, people like stoning people to death for killing women for wanting to go to school. Like the most fucked up things you could imagine.
Yeah.
That is incompatible with our values, but having their own culture is not, I would say.
That I can agree with, because it's, but I'm not going to try to, force my values against them, because there's no point in doing so, because they lived those values for a long time, and that's what they believe in, and there's nothing you and I can change about it, because they had those values long beforehand.
But it does become a very difficult situation, right? And for instance, with first of all, where do you draw the line there, right? ISIS has values we don't agree with.
Yeah.
Should we have bombed ISIS though? Like, were their actions so barbaric and so monstrous that we just had to, that not just us as Americans, but the entire world had to basically say no?
I kind of was upset when I heard the news about them killing children, but the issue that I had with that was, you're killing a kid because he was a Kurd or something like that you don't like, and the fact that the kid was murdered, you murdered him in cold blood, and you felt it was the right thing to do. That's wrong. You shouldn't have done that.
Absolutely, and they've done that to not just a handful, but thousands of kids.
Yeah.
So, like, is there a certain point where you just have to say no, this is unacceptable, or World War II, right? Let's say Japan did not attack the United States, but you had Germany committing the Holocaust. You had Unit 731 in Japan, I think it was, or something along those. Unit something. Yeah. Basically performing medical experiments on people in Manchuria and Korea. And you had all this going on, but we weren't attacked. Like, is there a point where we say, okay, we should probably put an end to this?
Yeah.
This is causing the worst human suffering imaginable.
If we didn't back in World War II, we would have never saved the Jews.
Yeah. and who knows what would have happened also if Hitler did defeat Britain, right? So yeah. Britain falls.
And people are telling us to don't do anything about helping women or anything like that. If we didn't help people like the Jews, you would never survived World War II. Because you're telling us and you're criticizing us for not interfering. When we decided enough is enough, yeah, we can't take this anymore. We're going to do it either way. Because some of us would agree, like, yeah, this is crazy. We should do something about this. But a lot of people don't want us to become the world police anymore. And I get it.
I don't want us to be that either. But I think we should let them have their own culture and their own way. And we should encourage them to gradually become more liberal, gradually become less extremist over time through soft power. But I think there also is a point where you do have to say, look, this is just too far. And it shouldn't just be us. It should be, all America, Europe, Japan, all of us working together to try and solve a problem where you have a genocide going on, for instance, or something along those lines. Yeah,
because there was a woman that surprisingly used to live who came from Iraq, but she was a Kurd. And she went to, I think it was Denmark, and she got a lot of media attention when she went to the Kurd side and tried to fight off the ISIS. And
YPJ.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that the funny thing about this story was she lived in Denmark for several years, and then went to the Kurd side, the IPJ, whatever they're called. And the funny thing is, she became a media darling after that, because I actually nicknamed her SS Sniper Wolf.
Based on the cosplayer?
Yeah, SS.
Metal Gear.
Yeah, Sniper Wolf, and I actually named her Sniper Wolf because she had the blonde hair. When you look at her, like, no joke, she actually looked like, and her because according to her background story, she was a Kurd born in Iraq, and the funny thing is, the prophecy came true. In real life.
I gotta hear this.
She had several confirmed kills. She had like 300 confirmed kills. Oh man, I'm starting to become that meme right now. And she became the real life Sniper Wolf.
Well, yeah, the whole, like, Syria, for instance, right? Like, Trump announces he's pulling out of Syria. Yeah. Now, part of me is like, yes, I didn't want us to get involved in Syria in the first place. It's a clusterfuck, and there's not really a whole lot we could have done. But at the same time, right, you have Rojava, which is what the Kurds... So the Kurds in Syria are calling themselves Rojava. That's what they call their homeland.
Yeah.
And they're actually one of the few groups in the Middle East that we probably should be supporting to some extent, right? These people, they've had democracy for years.
Yeah.
They've actually had democratic elections.
Yeah.
They believe in secularism by and large. Like, they don't have religious laws or anything like that. And in fact, the moderate parties, the secular parties have won in their elections.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're having, the Muslim Brotherhood take over.
Yeah.
And they also are one of the most egalitarian societies in the Middle East. They're not perfect, but they're one of the most egalitarian societies in the Middle East. So if there's one group that we should be backing, it should be them. And if we pull out, that's probably not going to go very well for them.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Yeah, because it's kind of a big surprise that a lot of people are talking about this issue and being concerned about it. But the funny thing is, the UN side of things, it seems like they're trying to keep this on a down low, like certain things.
Well, remember, Russia is a member of the UN Council.
Yeah. there's also Saudi Arabia, and they're covering up a lot of things as well.
And in most of the countries in the region do not want the Kurds to be able to keep their independence because they have Kurds in their own countries. Yep. And so they're worried if the Kurds in Syria get to keep their own country, what about the Kurds in our area? Are they going to want their own country too?
Yeah,
like Turkey, for instance, is very concerned about that, and Iran is concerned about that, and Iraq is concerned about that. They're concerned that if the Syrian Kurds are allowed, because they've declared their independence already.
Yeah.
And they've had referendums in like Iraq. The Kurds in Iraq, they had a referendum where they voted for independence for their region.
Yeah.
And the Iraqi government basically said, no, we're not going to allow it, even though the clear majority said they wanted it.
Yeah, that's likely the fact that they won't do it because they know that this would cost a lot of money, and yet they know how to run their own country pretty well, considering that they managed to do security checks and everything. Like, when I remembered hearing the news that they actually knew how to handle themselves while the rest of the area was like still fighting in one area, they managed to, you know, do security stuff. Like, they actually knew how to border guard everything, and it's like you'd be surprised what they do to just to protect themselves from being safe from it. Like, they actually are trying to do what they want to do.
But what I really want to use as an example that is very tough, right? So let them have their own culture.
Yeah.
Right? That sounds nice. It sounds reasonable. But then you have probably the most difficult situation here, which is, what about Afghanistan? Because we basically came in, overthrew their government, and now you have an entire generation of people who grew up for the first time in their lives under a democratic secular system.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are also still supportive of the Taliban. I think the opinion polls in Afghanistan, which are not super reliable, do show that most of the people in the country do support the democratic government over the Taliban.
That's true.
But when 30 or 40% of the country doesn't, you still have to deal with that, and especially when they're actively fighting against the government.
That's true.
And the government is corrupt and incompetent in many cases. So you got a lot going on there. If we pull out, what is going to happen to all those people, all the homosexuals who are allowed to not, get murdered? I think it's still illegal, but it's not the death penalty. What's going to happen to those people who are gay? They're going to die. What's going to happen to the people who are believing in democracy, who are going in that country? They're going to die. What's going to happen to the women who had a chance to go to school for the first time? And actually, women have been joining the Afghan army, and because they understand what's at stake, they've been enlisting at higher rates. I believe an article just said the other day that they are enlisting at higher rates now than they ever have. Women in the Afghan military. What's going to happen to all of those people?
I think most people are going to be afraid of what's going to happen, because Afghanistan has been known to be a chaos zone for war. A lot of the history always happens with war, even though the reason why they go to Afghanistan is because the mountains and everything there protects them. They go there, especially the caves and everything. They know they have an advantage there, and they can take advantage of everything down there.
Yeah, the Slayer of Empires or something along those lines?
Yeah.
Defeated the British, defeated the Soviets.
Yep. Defeated anybody who... Because they know they have an advantage down there. And it's always been a war zone over there, no matter what. They always had been, like... It can make or break you. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Afghanistan is a home for people who like to fight, who like to do what they can to survive, because they know that they have the advantage over others.
But in this case, right, letting them have their own culture. First off, what is their culture? Is their culture, the people who are fighting in the caves and mountains of Afghanistan? Or is the culture the people who, for the first time in their entire lives, have experienced what freedom looks like?
Yeah.
And you've got these these two completely different views.
Yeah,
They're incompatible with each other,
Well,
and we created the view. Like it's
I
not
know.
like these people came to it on their own and they're going to sort it out on their own. We imposed this on them. We imposed freedom on them, and then we said, now we're going to help you. We're going to help you preserve this freedom. And if we just pull out, what's going to happen?
Here's what I found out about this is that they had originally. Most people don't realize in history back then, during the time when Clinton was in power, he also did try to attack when Osama bin Laden was the leader of the terrorist group and wanted to get back at him for blowing up one of the whatchamacallit,
the Marine barracks bombing?
Yeah, the Marine barracks bombing, and there was also another one where it was a U.S. I forgot what they're called. U.S. I forgot what they're called.
Was it one of the airlines? Because they actually hijacked a bunch of airlines prior to 9/11.
That too, and that was during the 90s. It was around the 90s, and I recalled the news report where they sent Tomahawk missiles into Afghanistan. And I recalled that they showed the videos of the Tomahawk missiles and the Navy shooting and firing missiles into Afghanistan. And that was the last straw when they decided to take on the U.S.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know about this. Operation Infinite Reach.
Yeah, that's what it was. And a lot of people were never aware of that in history because Clinton actually gave the order to do that. And a lot of people didn't know about that.
So wait, they were stockpiling nerve gas and selling it to Al-Qaeda, the Sudan war? What the fuck?
And then they decided to send Tomahawk missiles after them when they decided to blow up a bunch of places that the U.S. was around. And that was the last straw, and Clinton decided to throw the Tomahawk missiles at him.
Oh, hey, look, there's our ally. It's Pakistan.
Oh, yeah.
Being involved again.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of things in history that people are not aware of, yet they want Clinton in power. And, of course, this happened. And then, of course, President Bush...
I would say Clinton did good with the Taiwan Strait crisis, though, for the most part.
He did okay with that. But when he basically gave power to Bush, all hell broke loose. And that became a problem. And then Obama took over, and that wasn't the great times when people kept, arguing and fighting each other.
Well, JT, I got to go in about 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry, I got us off topic.
I understand. It's like we got off topic about a lot of things, and there's a lot of things you probably didn't know about in history, too.
Well, was there anything you wanted to bring up to me about the book or anything?
Yeah, I would like to bring up about the fact that even though we got off topic about it, because that was the problem with us in GamerGate was we were always off topic.
We were always off topic.
We were always off topic. And that's true. And I realized after a while, there was a lot of things that people talked about. Like, I understand the heteronormative things and all that other stuff, but the one thing that bothered me the most were... I get that the trolls were trying to frame us as the bad guys because they were doing so good of a job of doing that, and then talking to the journalists about us in a way that you would not believe.
Well, and the trolls did interviews with the journalists. Remember? What was it? Was it The Guardian or something? They ran an article. No, BuzzFeed. I think it was BuzzFeed.
BuzzFeed.
And and the guy was basically saying, I'm a member of GamerGate, and I want to kill all the niggers or something. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was true.
Are you doing?
That's what he was trying to do.
It was Pterodax, wasn't it?
Pterodax, and there were some other people. I know that it was the Cancer Crew, as they called them. because they didn't like what was going on in GamerGate, and I had to agree with them on the point that all the charities and everything didn't help us. Because we tried our best to get out the charities and everything, and a lot of the stuff that happened was like a PR nightmare for us too. So the thing that bothered me about it. So what are your thoughts on this? And I guess your microphone's off too. Yeah, let's see. Moving forward.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's fine.
If it gets even slightly unplugged, or not even unplugged, but twisted in the USB port, it fucks up. Sorry about that.
You probably need to get a new one.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, I bought this blue microphone, which is like $40 to $50. It's like
So you were asking though about the the charities and why we were getting blamed so much for all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, part of it I think was the trolls. I did cover that in the book. That the trolls were very much involved.
Yeah.
But I think also part of it is obviously that there were actual harassers.
Yeah.
And
it was in both sides of it too.
Yes, on both sides, but also a lot of it was just not people in Gamergate even. It was just people, random gamers who were upset, like the people who were harassing Anita Sarkeesian. And when you're someone like Anita Sarkeesian, or, I'm not giving Brianna Wu the benefit of the doubt because I don't think she deserves it at this point. I know. With all the dishonesty we've seen, this is...
I know, because I really, a lot of people had an issue with me when I brought up her identity, when you find out her actual identity was.
Right.
And I'm not going to bring it up right now because that's not fair to her. But the funny thing was, Brianna Wu tried to, be the opportunist that she is, and I'm saying this in honesty. I can understand that there was a dark side to her, and there was a bright side to her, and I understand that she wanted to, stop the whole situation. It could have been stopped if people would not name call each other names or try to insult each other and trying to, accuse people of some right-wing conspiracy that Gamergate is, or white supremacists. And it got to the point that people didn't care anymore, and that's what caused people to get upset, that caused people to get mad and do something about it.
Right, and I don't give her charity for a number of reasons. First off, we have evidence that she was posting harassing messages to herself.
I know.
Yes, on her own internet forum.
I know.
So, and it's just ridiculous. Like,
I know.
Gamergate is putting VX gas in. No, it was sarin gas in the ventilation shafts at PAX. This is just absurdity. It's not even believable.
It's conspiracy. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't give her the benefit of the doubt. But someone like Anita Sarkeesian, right? Getting back on point, sorry.
I know.
Someone like Anita Sarkeesian or Jonathan McIntosh, right? These are people who weren't really involved in the internet scene, who weren't really involved in the video game scene. They're older. You have to bear in mind, these people are in their 40s, right?
Yeah. Around their 30s, actually. 30s.
Oh, sorry. So like probably mid-30s, and probably maybe now in the early 40s at most.
Yeah.
But these are older people. They didn't grow up in the same generation as us. They didn't.
I grew up in the generation as them, surprisingly.
But they don't strike me as people who grew up on the internet, who spent all day using Usenet or IRC chat rooms, right?
True. Yeah.
So these people, they come in, they make these videos promoting their feminist perspective on video games.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of backlash. A lot of it's legitimate criticism.
Yeah.
Some of it is trolls just being like, "Oh, I'm going to kill you," right? And then some of it is just a lot of hate, where it's just like, go fuck yourself. You don't understand games. Get the fuck out of here. But you see that, and so they, and Sarkeesian says this herself, right? She says at the UN. I'm going to finish this point here real quick. Sorry. So like she says at the UN, it's the day-to-day grind of you suck, you're a liar, right?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't understand that the internet can be a very vitriolic place, and you're going to get that stuff. She goes in thinking she's going to make some happy thing, and everyone's going to love it. And the video games press, the journalists are all like, "Oh, this is great! This is great! Clap, clap, clap!" And then she gets this massive backlash, and she doesn't know how to deal with it. And she sees all these people in GamerGate making these videos about her, and like, "Oh, she's wrong about this. She lied about that. She doesn't understand, Hitman or whatever." She sees these people making these videos, and she just conflates it all together.
Yeah.
And she's like, these fucking GamerGaters are out to get me. And I can understand that as a human reaction of what someone might have. Now, that doesn't mean that it was the GamerGaters out to get her.
Yeah, it was legit criticisms that people made about her that basically pointed out that they honestly disagree with her on her viewpoints that she made in her videos. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that people weren't really sure about what she meant about a lot of the stuff, because she didn't make any clarifications on what she was trying to say.
Right, and you're using a word like toxic masculinity or something. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, all these gamers don't understand what that means.
I think the word that she was trying to describe it as is an environmental thing. Like, she was like, I think that she was basically a sociologist. Like, she was using that in a sense of the word, because I don't understand how sociology works, and I understand that people use those words to describe something that is environmental to human, but when we use that word toxic, it basically means either, because I used to remember that the word is meant to be like toxic, like ingredients, or toxic. We use those words like toxic, like to describe like a barrel that's filled with materials that are toxic, like violent.
Something that will kill you or be harmful.
Or be harmful, yeah. And that's what they used the word harmful. They could have used the word harmful. That could have been understandable.
Well, I think to these people also, they use a word like toxic masculinity, which, I mean,
harmful
is not entirely... Or even harmful masculinity. I'm not sure that would be much better.
Yeah.
They use these words, and they're controversial, but I think there probably is a grain of truth in it, right? Like, men commit the vast majority of crimes.
Yeah.
They commit the vast majority of murders, vast majority of rapes, vast majority of so on and so forth. Yeah. And there are a lot of men who are violent, right?
Yeah.
But obviously not all men are like that, and obviously not. Obviously, there are a lot of men who are very masculine, right? They don't abandon their masculinity. They're very masculine, but they use that to help people, to protect people, to protect their family, to protect women, to protect their communities and their country, right? There's positive aspects of this too, and there's also toxic aspects of femininity, right? There's women gossiping about each other. There's women, spreading lies and rumors about each other, so on and so forth. And there's toxic and positive elements, both good and bad elements of both
the
masculinity and femininity, but they don't seem to have that nuance when they talk about it, or especially like a lot of people want to use it as a gotcha, or as sort of an insult, right?
Yeah. There's also the fact that you just described the yin and yang of genders.
Yeah.
The good side and the bad side of a gender.
But it's always about toxic masculinity, which is only talking about the negative aspects of men and not the negative aspects of women.
Well, yeah.
And they oftentimes don't talk about the positive aspects.
Yeah.
Or they don't as much.
There's the positive aspects of femininity. There's the negative aspects of femininity. And people don't understand that too. It's like they don't look in the good and the bad of things when they describe these things. And it's like you realize there's the difference between good and evil, and you're just describing one aspect of it. That's it.
Absolutely. And I think that's why a lot of people are pushing back against this and are upset about this, because they don't clarify what exactly it is that they mean.
Yes.
Like, so I think there are certain behaviors that pretty much all of us would agree are toxic.
Yeah.
But also, you have to bear in mind that this is not all men. It might not even be most men. Like Jonathan McIntosh, right? He did a video on, I think it was, oh gosh, I better not forget the name of it, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And he talks about Biff representing toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
and how Biff is basically supporting toxic masculinity. It's like, well, yeah, certainly his character does throughout the film,
but
at the same, he's the bad guy.
Yeah, but you have to understand. You have to understand. Biff changed after when McFly punched him in the face. They both, and it was kind of an interesting story. It changed him a lot and then of course, in Back to the Future too, he changed too when he finds out the future.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never actually seen Back to the Future.
Oh, I watched Back to the Future.
I need to.
You need to watch all three of them because it's like they're really good movies. Especially if you were born in the '80s, you would probably watch them.
I hear they're some of the greatest movies of all time. So
yes, they are.
That to the test.
Yeah, Back to the Future was just funny. But they're not like the best movies ever made. They were just that's what people would tell you. Even though the special effects were at the time the only thing that they had available, it still was an okay movie. But trying to get on topic here. It's interesting enough that a lot of the stuff that you pointed out here, you do point out an actual good, reasonable argument about both sides of the argument. There's the good side and there's the bad side of things that happen in GamerGate, and you'd be surprised even though we are accused of being the bad guys, you'd be surprised what happens when you find out a lot of the journalists who accused us of a lot of things. Turns out some of them did some shady stuff, especially Devin Ferrasi.
Oh yeah, Matt Hickey too.
And Matt Hickey, yeah, and it's like
there were over a dozen. I included him in the book here.
And Juan Thompson, and that's another one that surprised.
The terrorist.
yeah, he tried to call the police, trying to say that he was going to blow up the Jewish center, threatening that. All because he wanted to frame his ex-girlfriend, into a situation where he wanted her to get into trouble because she's a white woman. It's obvious.
He did not think that through.
Yeah, he did not think that.
He got hit with like domestic terrorism charges or something.
Oh,
it was bad.
Yeah, he was, and he went to jail for it because he called the Jewish community center to just to frame us for it. And then also frame his girlfriend. That's what he was trying to do, his ex-girlfriend, over this. And it's like, dude, you're defending women, but yet your ex-girlfriend broke up with you and you're so bitter about it. That just shows that you didn't really give a shit about anything.
Yeah, and GamerGate also had some questionable figure. Like, recently.
Yeah.
What happened with Mercedes Carrera? Allegedly.
I'll give it. I'll give
allegations are true.
Yeah, the only thing that bothered me with the allegations about her and the child, I think that part I'm not going to get involved with. The only part that upset me was the meth.
Why is that?
Because if they found meth in the house, chances are she might have abused her child. And I'm giving her the benefit of a doubt, though, because I don't believe she sexually abused her child. I believe that she abused her child when she was abusing the meth, because I can confirm from sources that I talked to. Because I know that you know who Frozen is, right?
I've seen him around.
Frozen Binary.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked to him, but I've seen.
It's her, actually. No, it's her.
Sorry.
Yeah. Frozen explained to me that she can confirm that she was using meth at the time, and also enhancement drugs. And the one thing that bothered me the most about it was that she basically abused drugs for a while. Because I think it's because of her porn career. She was trying her best to, fit in, but at the same time, she had some problems. And I remembered Michael had a falling out with her a while back and left. And something bothered me about that whole situation with Michael and Mercedes. You know who Michael Jordan is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me that
not the basketball player for anyone listening.
Yeah, not the basketball player. He was the owner of a website.
Niche Gamer, right?
No, it wasn't Niche Gamer. He worked for Niche Gamer for a while, but then he got fired too. From what I understand, he basically he told me that when he was working with a porn actress, he saw met Mercedes, and they had a bit of an argument spat, and then he left. And he told me that Mercedes was illegitimate, not genuine. And from what I heard, there was a lot of problems with her. Considering I did a little bit of digging, I found out she had some money issues. She had some problems. And it was kind of a sad story for her because she's been working in porn for a while, trying to, get jobs and everything. And she tried to do tranny, like she was doing the trans porn thing with bisexuality porn and all that other stuff, and she really wanted to get support for it. Like, she literally is doing the porn because she wanted to get paid, and it's sad too.
Well, yeah, and I don't know about that situation. I can't comment on it. I hope the police do a thorough investigation, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, because the one thing that bothered me was that when she tried to blame her ex-husband, calling him a fundamentalist Christian, when she made that statement, and that bothered me. And it was kind of like the same statement that people make about fundamentalists, like blaming it on the fundamentalist Christian narrative of things.
Oh, like you see how people, like in the church, for instance, the Catholic Church, how they excuse and turn a blind eye to sexual assaults of children.
Yeah.
There's also other examples too. Of course, remember Seattle for Truth?
Yeah, I remembered him.
Diggs? Yeah, he murdered his dad. You know that?
Yeah, he murdered his dad. I know. I lived in...
Allegedly
murdered his dad. Yeah, it turns out he probably would make that excuse conspiracy about the fact that his dad was murdered by aliens or something.
Well, he claimed his dad was a pedophile.
His dad was a pedophile, so he killed him. And it's like, I don't think he actually... Did he sexually abuse you? That's the question.
I mean, look, I don't know, maybe. Maybe it's possible. Yeah, maybe he was abused and he snapped and he took it out on his dad. Yeah. Or maybe... But he also... He called a lot of people pedophiles.
I know, he called a lot of people pedophiles because... I think it's because he was abused or something.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. I don't, I'm not going to slander their family, right? Yeah, maybe his dad was completely innocent.
He was crazy.
He was a nice guy, though. Like, if you talk to him, he would be super friendly with you. But
yeah, but when you...
He defended me too. Like when there were people on like Ralph. Remember Ralph?
Yeah, Ralph.
In his Discord server. Who were like, oh, we got to go out there and get Netscape, right? Get him.
Yeah.
And he stood up for me and he said, hey, he's a good guy. He's actually trying to do stuff that's productive. Leave him alone.
And I do feel bad for him, but at the same time, what he did was pretty stupid too.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that bothered me the most about him, is that he actually had success with his videos and everything, even though, yeah, he can be a bit conspiratorial about him, but he had the talent, he had everything, but he threw it all away by killing his father.
Yeah, and he also got involved in conspiracy theory stuff a little too much. He says he didn't believe it, he just wanted to put the information out there for entertainment and get people to think, but he was promoting conspiracy theories that he didn't really believe in.
I know, especially Gamergate. He turned that into a conspiracy too.
Oh yeah.
And then, looking at the sources and everything, it was interesting looking at what they were trying to do, and it kind of exposed some of the stuff that happened in Gamergate.
But the Department of Defense is not a major player in the Gamergate controversy. Let's just put that out there, okay?
I know. That's the funny thing. It's
unless there's a serious psyop or something we don't know about.
Yeah, and it's like we kind of laughed at a lot of the stuff that happened. It's like, look, we don't actually condone or make conspiracies about this, but there is a lot of conspiracies that were exposed that were funny.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the whole thing, like, looking back, it was so much fun. There was something new every single day, and that really helps, I think, when people get in this mode of where they're looking for something to do with their lives.
I know.
And they get sucked in, whether it's Gamergate or the social justice warriors or Trump or Bernie or anything, right?
Yeah.
Or the alt-right, right?
Yeah.
They get sucked into this, and that's all they see all the time. All their friends are talking about it, all their virtual friends in many cases, right?
Even actors, Hollywood actors were getting involved in it too.
They're insular. They get stuck in their insular communities, and these Hollywood actors, right? They have their own sets of morals and culture and values that are separate from most people in society, and they think everyone thinks like them.
Yeah. Like
they put out those tweets about, Trump or Gamergate or whatever it happens to be, and they think, oh yeah, man, all my friends think this is right, so everyone else will think this is right. They don't understand.
I got blocked by John Cusack for what? I don't know. I didn't do anything to you, buddy.
You're like one of the most mild-mannered people on Twitter.
Yeah,
JT, how could someone block you?
All I did was post memes of Trump. That was it. And yet he gets upset with me about it. It's like, look, I get that you're upset about the fact that Trump won the election, but I don't really care. Because, frankly, John, I'm only going to tell you this right now. I do like to watch your movies. They're really good movies. It's just the fact that you're getting upset over a petty issue about the election. Look, the reason why Trump won, and I'm saying this in an honest viewpoint here, was the fact that the working class had enough and were fed up because of the fact that people explained their issue, that they were getting tired of paying a high amount of taxes, and the working class, even healthcare went up too, and they got so fed up with that issue.
Well, yeah, and I talk about this here too, right? The left. So what is the worst aspect of political correctness or social justice warriors, right? It's not the mansplaining is banned. That mansplaining is banned in New York City subways, right? That's the manspreading, whatever. That's not the biggest concern. It's not that even the transgender athletics thing, right? That's a big problem.
Yeah.
That's not even the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that when you have this social justice mindset, when you have this political correctness, you prevent conversations from taking place. And so what does that leave people with, right? When you go around and you say that if you voted for Trump or you voted for Brexit, that you're a racist, that you're a Nazi, that you're a monster, those people are going to become further entrenched in their views. And more than that, right? If you prevent people from having conversations about legitimate issues, such as like mass immigration in Europe, right? Yeah. Mass Islamic immigration in Europe is a big issue in Europe that a lot of people are concerned about. But when the mainstream political parties refuse to address issues like this, when they refuse to come up with a reasonable solution that everyone can get on board with, or that a lot of people would support, and they just say, we're not going to talk about that issue. When they do that, they are emboldening the far-right parties. They are emboldening the actual racists and the actual Nazis.
Yeah.
Because who are you going to vote for, right?
Yeah.
If all the mainstream party, you're concerned about mass immigration in Europe, you see your community changing. You see Sharia police walking down the streets. You see no-go zones. You see child grooming gangs. And you're concerned. But you're not a racist. You're not a bad person. You want to see this stop. You want to see this dealt with. But you also don't want to destroy liberal democracy.
Yeah, and there's also women getting killed too. And
yes.
No one's often discussing that issue and concern. You say that you're for protecting women, but women are being brutally murdered on the streets, and you're not doing or saying anything about it? Come on. You're all a bunch of con artists.
Right, so what do you see? Like in France, like what do you see? So the mainstream left doesn't really have any ideas here. The mainstream right doesn't really have any ideas here. They're not even trying. They're just ignoring the issue. And so what do people vote for? They vote for the National Front of France, which has moderated in recent years. They used to be like a full-on neo-Nazi group. Now they're trying to be more mainstream. But even so, they're voting for this extremist group, not because they even believe in this stuff, right? But because they want their voices heard. And if you don't address those concerns, this is going to keep happening, and it's going to get worse. And one of these days, they're going to win.
Yeah. And that's gonna cause a lot of people to question the issue, and that's gonna cause a lot of people to be voting for another party that they don't like, because that would actually change the minds. And the point of trying to reach out to people is to tell them to basically understand the issue. And tell them to understand that the fact that we're not trying to be racist, we're trying to fix a problem.
And in fact, by ignoring the problem, you are making racism worse, even, right?
Yeah, you're making the racism worse, because if we have these people go out of control and take advantage of other people, is it our responsibility to have these people who are doing the wrong thing get away with it? Because if they get away with it, then that would cause them to be hated more. Do you want that to happen in society?
Right, exactly. Nothing did more damage to probably the good Pakistani people. Like, so Matt, you know Majid Nawaz?
Yeah.
He was just attacked by a racist.
Yeah.
You hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about
that. He posted pictures online. Apparently, there were witnesses and stuff too, and it was caught on camera, supposedly by the police cameras. So, here we have a lot of evidence that he was attacked by a white racist who called him a Paki. Get the fuck out of here, you Paki, or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact words that were used. Right? So, what is doing the most harm to the good people who are from Pakistan? Like Majid Nawaz, it's the fact that the Asian gangs are getting, quote unquote Asian gangs.
Yeah, Asian gangs. That's what they call them.
Are getting away with these crimes because the police are too afraid of being seen as racist.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Asians in California. Like they had the triads. Remember the triads, and they were getting stereotyped as drug lords, and especially Hispanics. They're being stereotyped as drug lords, gang members, thugs for criminal organizations. Italian mafia being stereotyped as thugs and criminals. Same with the Irish, being that they had the Irish mafia that made them look bad too.
Right. When you have these, especially when you're giving them a free pass, right?
Yeah.
Especially when the state turns a blind eye to their injustice. That's when it really gets under people's skin.
Yeah, and that causes actual real racism. And especially, I can understand that black people as well are getting like the short end of the stick sometimes when it comes to being accused of something, or being like, heck, there's some people I can give a benefit of the doubt if they're innocent until proven guilty. It's kind of sad that a lot of men who get accused, like black men especially, chances are they could be innocent because the evidence proves that they're innocent, but sometimes the courts would go all the way because they assume they're black, and there is some bias towards it too, that they can be accused of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really know enough about the statistics there. I do know that they do receive stricter sentences for the same crime, right?
Yeah.
They do. Men too.
Yeah.
Both men and black people both receive harsher sentences for the same crime. I know, like Larry Elder and Ben Shapiro were just talking about this, the same thing. They say that there could be other factors involved, such as whether or not you seem like you feel remorse and whether or not you had a past criminal history.
Yeah.
That could also be partially responsible for that, but I'm not sure how much of it is just discrimination, how much of it is that.
And it does tend to happen a lot, especially if they're going to shoot. Police would probably either assume that you're dangerous or something like that. Like, more times than that, they try to be more, they don't try to use the gun, they try to, talk to you.
Well, and here's the thing, too, like, with this was actually hilarious. I did a video on the whole Kavanaugh situation.
Yeah.
In which I basically advocated that we should treat him as innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Unless you have some serious evidence here, we can't just take someone's word that you're a rapist.
Yeah.
Or an attempted rapist. And one of the comments, oh my gosh. My God. It was great. One of the comments was how many black men were lynched based on accusations alone. Oh my God, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like I recently learned for the first time.
Yeah.
I guess that's sort of an indictment of our education system.
Yeah.
Of the story of Emmett Till.
Yeah, I heard about Emmett Till.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until like 4 months ago.
Emmett Till was hanged for hitting on a white woman in Chicago, right?
And then she claimed she made the whole thing up.
Wow.
It never happened. Yeah, she
and it was
she came out in like the 90s and said it was all fake.
Yeah, and it's like she did that because of social pressures, because her family.
Now he might have been hitting on her, or flirting with her, but it wasn't like aggressive or anything like that.
Yeah, because in certain areas there's a certain degree of racism back in the days, and what happened was the North and South still had their issues with racism, and what happened was Emmett Till didn't realize he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, hitting on a white woman, and they took that the wrong way, and they tried to punish him for it. And then he got killed for it too, which is the sad part.
Yeah, it was. They shot him for hitting on a girl.
Yeah.
That's
a white girl.
White girl, yeah.
Yeah, and it was. And it was sort of the extreme measure back then. You have to understand, racism was still around, and now
it was the 1950s.
Yeah, it was the 1950s.
And it was sort of goes without saying, the South in the 1950s.
Yeah, the South from the 1950s, and he was from a different state. That's what happened, and they basically killed him for that. Oh boy, that story kind of story was scary though.
Well, and that story actually helped spark the civil rights movement with the.
Oh yeah.
Well, in part because of how absurd it was to so many people, white and black, at the time, that felt it was just so ridiculous. Like even a lot of white people look at this and they were like, "This is just wrong. I cannot possibly." And then the sheriff was covering it up too.
Yeah. And it was just a young kid who didn't know any better.
Yeah, he was like 15 or something, like maybe 17. But...
And he was from a different state, and he was just visiting family, and they just... And
then there was the casket. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So the mother wanted the world to see how horrible the injustice was.
Yeah.
So because they tried to hide the body in a swamp or something.
Yeah.
So he was all like deteriorated when they found his body like 4 weeks later, and she had the media take pictures, and tell the story.
And be surprised, a lot of us do know what it is, because we all heard the history of it.
Well, I didn't know about this till 4 months ago. Like, what the fuck?
I learned this. I watched a documentary about it. Like there was several videos that I remembered about this whole situation. My teacher showed me the documentaries. Like there was like one about a Jewish guy who in Georgia was hanged for killing a girl, and they wanted to kill him because he was a Jewish guy. I forgot his name. Let me look him up. His name was Frank. I forgot his name.
Franz Hopper. So he created...
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing, sorry.
No, it was Frank. Let me see if I can look it up.
Well, I gotta start getting ready pretty soon. Here, I
Yeah,
got that meeting.
Leo Frank, that's his name.
Was there any final questions or anything, or anything you
Um,
wanted to talk about, or?
well, considering that we were off topic the whole time, we might do it again if you want to.
I mean, this is fine. I think we had a good conversation, even
Oh
if it was a
yeah,
lot off topic.
yeah. Because
So
your book,
we can go
talk
ahead, sorry.
about. All right, when is your book? When are you planning to release your book?
Uh, I'm still waiting for the artist to finish. I actually hired one of our GamerGate people.
Oh
You guys know
yeah,
Ashion?
Nashion.
Ashion,
I have not heard of
Ashion.
him, but I know Kokuro is another one. You could,
Kukuro is great, yeah.
yeah,
Ashion, he's good too.
yeah.
He did a lot of GamerGate stuff back in the day. He did the Kotaku in action image with
Oh,
Vivian
yeah.
with the shotgun.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah. I remember that one.
yeah, that's him. And it's looking pretty good so far. He said he'll have it done by the end of the month, so we'll see. And I have to finish editing it, and then maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that. So maybe a month or so, I'd say.
Okay.
No.
Okay, because it seems kind of interesting to see that in this book you're going to try to delve deep into the rabbit hole, which is GamerGate, and talk about the issues that are brought up about this. Are you planning to add in anything, or possibly anything that you when you finish this book?
You mean like make changes to the rough draft that you saw, or?
Yeah.
So I've already made a few different changes, added a few paragraphs, changed the wording of things that I felt were like it just doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
Yeah.
And so I tried to make some changes there too. And I also might do an audiobook copy, but I'm not sure how I can self-publish an audiobook.
Yeah, an audiobook, like trying to get like a voice actor to do it.
I mean, hell, I'll read it even. And I'll
Yeah.
put like the first chapter up for free on
Yeah.
audiobook so people can read the first chapter.
Well, you
listen
can
to it.
hire what's his name to do it. Like, there's a guy that did the voicing for what was his name? I forgot his name. He was friends with Mr. Medicare, and he did like the voice of. You remember the
Jesse Ventura voice.
Yeah, the Jesse Ventura voice, and there was also he also did the what's his name that got accused of racism when he brought into an interview, Liam Nielsen.
Oh, yeah, that whole Liam Nielsen story was so fucked up, man.
I know. And
What?
he's like,
Look, he obviously did something bad.
Let me see if I can read
20 years ago.
Let me try to read an insert to the book here with Liam Nielsen's voice.
All right.
Let's see. Note from the author. Thank you for picking up a copy of GamerGate. First battle of the Cultural War. The purpose of this book is twofold. Let me see if I can do that. First, to document the history of GamerGate in honesty and fair way as possible. Second, to share what those of us involved have learned on all along the way, to hopefully promote greater understanding and improve our dialogue. What's transpired during GamerGate has considerable parallels to much of our greater political and social-political discourse today. And if we fail to learn from GamerGate, we will be worse off from it.
Not bad. Maybe I should hire you. Shit.
Yeah, I could, but I'd rather have the other guy do it because he has a better understanding of reading this stuff. He's like,
GamerGate touched upon the greater many topics from media ethics to the tactics of social shaming over modest political disagreement. And even if many of the social media mobs we see today, GamerGate saw the polarization and mainstream in the term social justice warrior, and the pushbacks against those who were perceived as being these social justice warriors, perhaps the greatest similarity between.
And that's interesting, though. But the thing is, I think this book, with a little more time, could probably change a lot of the stuff that's been happening. That especially the history too.
You mean? What do you mean? It could change just change people's perceptions, or?
No, it probably will. It probably will change the perception of what's going on, and you can explain that a lot of us weren't at the time. You know, there was opportunists. There was also people like. Did you hear about Jenny Bargera?
Yeah, Jenny Barrage. Yeah.
Yeah, her website.
Based Gamer, which
which is gone and disappeared, and the money's gone and everything.
I heard about that. Yep.
Yeah, it turns out she's working for a media company in California, which explains why she's no longer living in Canada, and she's getting a lot of money for it. But as far as I know, the thing that bothered me the most was that website was doomed to fail.
Well, the idea of it's not bad, but people making their own reviews and establishing a reputation as a good reviewer, as an independent person.
Yeah.
But that's not much different from Metacritic, except on Metacritic, I guess you don't follow individual reviewers. I don't know, maybe you can.
You don't follow the individual, like, you only follow the people that say what they think of this game, what they actually honestly feel about this game. And I do agree with it, but the sad part was, you know, a lot of people couldn't publish content because there was a lot of bug issues and a lot of problems.
Oh, yeah, with the website. I heard about that. People for months were complaining about that, and nothing seemed to ever get done or fixed.
Yeah, so it turned out that she couldn't pay for someone to fix that problem because she ran out of money spending all that money. And I knew that Buttermancer talked about this, that he explained that he could have offered her a cheaper server, but she would rather listen to her friends. And that kind of raised a red flag on a lot of people's concern about that. Like, she literally does not want to do it. She didn't want any involvement. She didn't want to do anything anymore. She was done.
Ooh, and she took all those donations too, right?
Yeah, it was about, I think, 60 to 50,000 plus her father donated money to it too.
Well, and Deep Freeze hasn't been updated in a while.
Yeah,
Bone Golem took a break.
Yeah, Bone Golem hasn't been active in a while,
which is a shame, since that's probably the best thing that came out of GamerGate.
Yeah,
one of them anyway.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, the only thing I would tell you about this whole situation is that over the years, you know, you start to look at this whole situation and you laugh at a lot of the stuff that happened, and sometimes get disappointed by the other things that happen too.
So, I had a question for you now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
What would you say was our biggest failing in GamerGate? Like, not...
You're cut off.
But just something we didn't really understand. Oh, great.
Yeah, you cut off on that. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. So what would you say was our biggest failing in GamerGate? Like, what is the biggest thing that we should have learned, or if we were going to do it all differently, do it all over again, what would you change?
The only thing I would change about it is the fact that we should have told the trolls to stop this.
I mean, you don't think we did?
We couldn't.
With the harassment patrol and such?
Yeah, the harassment patrol didn't do anything. A lot of the trolls that were involved, we should have told them, look, don't do this. You're getting yourself in trouble. Because they didn't understand what was going on. And a lot of them said, ignore the trolls. And it's like, the trolls were basically damaging GamerGate and trying to claim that, oh, we're just trying to be edgy and funny. But at the same time, they honestly disagreed with GamerGate. When you saw Pterodax siding with trying to troll everybody with the whole with the death of you know who we're talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Ben. Okay, John Bain.
Oh, I thought you were talking about. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about somebody else.
Total Biscuit. You saw how Pterodax was treating people, and how he was like trying to, you know, mess with people, agreeing with the so-called woman claiming that she was harassed. And it turns out that was the same woman that did that thing in Boston, doing that live stream of the GamerGate whole issue with GamerGate. And you find out that she was full of shit and everything, and they were shitting on her for it.
Well, and you remember too, which was probably one of the darker periods of the GamerGate story, which was what happened with Lily Fang with trolls and some of the revolt people too, how they were basically blaming us for her death and spamming the hashtag with pictures of people committing suicide.
Yeah.
After one of our own people, well, not one of theirs, I guess, because they don't care one way or the other, but one of our people died. It's like, really, motherfucker? Like, that's
I know, and that's
good
what caused
behavior on your part. Like, you think that's a good thing to do?
The thing was, we should have never talked about the suicide. We should have just let it be. Is that what you think we should have done?
Well, and then we have them writing hit pieces too, right? Yeah. About her. And so if her family Googles, her parents Google their daughter's name, it's going to come up with how she was, how she killed herself because her GamerGate friends weren't nice enough to her, and come up with pictures of people getting hit with trains. It's like, really? Yeah. Really, motherfucker?
I know. They were making memes of it, too, and it was like the trolls were really, trying to cause a problem with it.
No doubt, yeah.
And it's like, it caused a lot of problems. Sure, I do agree that it was grave standing. I do agree that that was that. I didn't, and it was kind of like I didn't have it. I understand the issue about suicide was a problem, but trying to make fun of it, I get that too. But it's not going to help the situation.
Look, even if it were grave standing, right? I'm pretty sure making fun of her is probably worse than that.
Yeah. That's
right?
Like,
nobody was running donations. Well, actually, so then they tried to. Do you remember they created a fake charity in her name?
Yeah.
And they tried to frame other people, like Nicole, I think.
Yeah.
Tried to frame her as being the creator of the charity, and she's like, "No, I had nothing to do with this."
Yeah. And that's the thing. They should have never done that. They should have never.
Like, that's illegal. I'm pretty sure.
That's illegal, and plus, you shouldn't have done that to make her because there was a lot of cons and a lot of things that were going on in GamerGate that happened.
Oh yeah, but I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
And especially when we find out that Allison Prime was one of those cases.
Oh, and so was Hope Still Flies.
Yeah, Hope Still Flies.
Jonathan Warden, I think his name is.
Yeah, that was another one, and it was kind of a sad situation right there too.
Well, dude, I would not say sad situation. Like, you mean
he was a pedophile? Yeah,
he was a pedophile. It's sad that he did those things, and that he tried to hide it.
Yeah, he tried to hide it, and it was like.
But I'm so glad that we discovered who his true identity is.
Yeah, because it would affect us a lot more, because we actually called out all the bullshit that happened, and a lot of the stuff that happened was pretty dark.
But I think anytime you get, I talk about this in the book too, like anytime you get large groups of people, right, there are, but probably tens of thousands of people in this conversation space alone.
Yeah.
And they're going to have bad people on both sides. Like, there were 12 different anti-GamerGate people who were accused of sexual assault.
Oh, yeah.
That we know about. And then there was Dwan Thompson with the domestic terrorism threats and things like that.
Yeah, and that was the sad thing.
And SRH Butts with the
pedophile accusations.
Allegedly.
But
pedophile accusations.
And then she posted pictures of her cousin, and that kind of got to the point that Baphomet went after her for it.
Which I really hope she ended up in jail after all of that.
Well, considering what happened, her family had a good talking to her, from what I heard. And oh boy, a lot of it wasn't good. And of course, I would have suggested get off the internet while you still can, because that's what happened. But she's still on there on the internet, still accusing people.
Oh.
And I did talk.
She tried to say she's just edgy. She's just being edgy, bro.
Yeah, she was just being edgy, and then you find out, like, because there were so many memes of her, especially the one where you see my pictures of my cousin. Fuck off.
You can't go around admitting that you're a pedophile over the course of several months.
Yeah.
Over the course of several months. And then share pictures of your daughter.
She kept that wasn't her daughter, that was her cousin.
Sorry. And you keep sharing those pictures and then saying, "Oh, I want to fuck her" and all this stuff. It's like, you can't do that. That's not being edgy. That's not a joke.
Edgy. That's not being a joke. And no, not everyone was having an issue with you being trans. They had an issue with you being disturbingly creepy.
Right.
And that was the issue. And that was the problem with a lot of... It was like, I can understand that Pterodax wanted to defend her, and I understand he wanted to give her the benefit of doubt, but it didn't help the fact that some of the stuff that she said was disturbing and creepy, and I know that Baphomet went after her, and then later on one of the owners of Baphomet got doxxed and found out.
Well, anyway, guys, I gotta head out here. Just a second, okay?
I'll close the stream. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for listening to us talk and babble about this whole situation. We might continue talking about this book, and also the fact that your book is coming out whenever you feel like it. The title of the book, please.
GamerGate: First Battle of the Culture War.
Yeah, the first battle. Are you going to make a second book out of this one too?
Probably not based on the same topic, but I'm probably going to make some fiction books. Actually, I'm writing a couple fiction books, maybe. Thinking about it.
You're thinking about making the fictional science tales of mythic stories, right?
Well, so I actually had a few ideas. Okay, so one of them would be like about pilots who are fighting. Like, so it's a world like Ace Combat, right? A world where nationalism never went away.
Yeah.
And so it's following this squadron of pilots and their story in this hyper nationalistic world. And then there's also another idea I have, which is kind of inspired by Code Lyoko, but with adults. Okay. So like there's time travel, and they have to try and save the world and prevent disasters. And there's a third idea, which is crazy, not going to happen, which is I thought it'd be hilarious if we made a second GamerGate book, right? Yeah. But a fiction book where it's a fictional recreation of the GamerGate story. And it's GamerGate Strike Force Omega, and it's like over the top, completely ridiculous story.
Would you publish a comic book on that one? That's the thing.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good.
Make it into but unfortunately you'll probably get defunded from certain organizations because they might just take it down, because I know that Indiegogo did that with certain people that they didn't like.
But we wouldn't use anybody's real names, but we'd like have it really close, like Joey Zen.
Yeah, I can imagine me calling myself AJ Jummies or something like that. Calling myself the name of
AJ Beta.
AJ Beta. AJ Beta. Yeah, calling myself AJ Beta or AJ Beta.
Joan Bean
and internet wild style or something like that.
Yeah, nothing really rhymes with aristocrat.
yeah, internet wild style or internet wig man.
yes, that would be perfect.
Internet wig. Yeah, because the internet aristocrat started all, but unfortunately he only made one video finding out about this. Anyways, we gotta go, because I know that you have to leave, so we'll
yes, I'm about to be named Employee of the Year at my work, so I gotta go.
Good job, man.
Well, maybe I have a 1 in 12 chance, so we'll see.
So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Be sure to share this if you want to hear about the GamerGate book. It'll come out sooner or later, hopefully, and he will be publishing it. So thank you for watching. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Nice